Now, here's Dr. Larry.
Did you know? Let's go.
You've waited all week.
Every week, we continue to learn how to achieve a better back and ultimately better health.
Live in the WIKB studios, this is Dr. Larry.
Well, thank you for hitting the Flexipaster, Tim. Hello again, everybody. Okay, let's get it started. Well, as you know, every show builds on the next. Every week, we continue to learn how to achieve a better back and ultimately better health. Now, in case any of you missed it, last week we talked about hips. It was an important week to be tuned in because we learned and defined about how to get a lube, oil, and change for your hips because, let's face it, they go through a lot of turns, tilts, and dips. So, here it is again. Hips. Hip, hip, hooray. The hip joint. When hips are working their way, but when one or two hip joints start to go astray, you'll want to know the path to lead them from the fray. It's Hip Joint Review Day for all you ladies and lads with age who want some hip knowledge that's sage. Let's put your hips on center stage. Here we go. For starters, the hip joint, ball and socket joint that connects the thigh bone, sounds like grade school, to the hip bone, and the socket is called the acetabulum. You'll see that as you get your x-rays ordered back. You'll see these terms, acetabulum, femur. Not going to pop quiz you on those, but I want you to hear it because the more times you hear it, the more familiar you will get. The hip joint is the largest joint in the body after the knee and is surrounded by muscles, ligaments, and tendons. No brainer there. The proper term for the hip joint is a Latin word which nobody ever uses, so you're not going to get it. Each hip bone is made up of actually 3 bones. So it's kind of this little, it's not 3 as a crowd, it's this symphony of a joint that kind of turns and tilts for us. The female hip bones are more delicate and shallow than the males with a less of a slope. However, the superior, the top part of the pelvis is larger. So, of course, some anatomical differences. Ligaments. These are the fibrous structures. They connect bone to bone. And there's a Y-shaped ligament. There is a triangular shaped ligament, and there's a group of strong fibers that kind of encase the whole hip. There's small ligaments that attach, and I tell you what, it's amazing. You look at this small little ligament, it attaches the ball to the top portion of the concave part or the inner part of the hip joint. It's amazing that thing just stays attached. And then there's the labrum. Some of you may have even torn a labrum in your hip joint. And FYI on that one, a torn labrum, clicking, popping, and pain, that's a little indicator of a torn labrum. Done those on some tip and tricks. Then you got your butt muscles or your hinder. You got your glutes, which we all know, and you got your muscles that move your hip outside to inside. I just did a couple of hip checks yesterday, evaluating the muscles and the ligaments to give an assessment for patients on, I say, a mileage report on their hips. And like I mentioned last week, guys, having no butt, not an excuse anymore. When we get older, the hip muscles start to fade a little bit and we lose our butts, and then we need suspenders or we need belts tightened up to keep our pants from falling. Guess what? You start losing the hip muscles, you may be predisposed to some hip problems. So we went over that last week. Then you've got your nerves, you got your arteries and your veins. The hips are quite the joint. The analogy of the hip would be the shoulder. Of course, not weight-bearing, but it's the same style joint. So if you think of the two in the same, boy, you're really starting to get your knowledge and get into some game. Loads on the hip joints can vary depending on the type of movement. So last week we went over different forces. Walking. Look, walking is fantastic, but what's the load on your hips when you walk? It's over 4 times your body weight. And if you hit some different turf, it increases past that. How about running? Any runners out there? You got to sprint? Maybe you'll run to get your mail real quick? That's about 7.5 times your body weight, up to 10 times your body weight. Just walking or running changes the dynamics and the loads and the force on the hips. It's unbelievable. Sitting with your ankles crossed, there's a load on that. Getting up from a chair and bending forward, it's about 40% of your body weight. These are startling. Listen to this. Going up steps, 251% of your body weight. Going down steps is up to 260% of your body weight. So these load changes kind of happen all the time, and we don't even have to think about it when our hips are fine. But when they're not fine, that's when we got to talk a little bit about some prevention here. The movement, by the way, if you just stand on one leg like a stork, that can almost triple the body weight on the one hip. Squatting, especially with poor technique, look out. You got a hip replacement. The average loads on a hip joint with people with hip replacement does change as well too. Now, hip replacement technology is fantastic. I always say it's one of the surgeries if you got to get, you can get, because I mean you're up and at 'em in less than 2 weeks, especially the way they're doing hip surgeries now. The anterior hip replacement's one of the best, I think, things I've seen in my career, and durable as far as that goes. But anyway, it changes the loads on the hip, and you've got to keep that in mind. Last week, if you stumble, like you catch your toe on a rug or something like that, that increases the load up to 8 times your body weight on your hips. 8 times. You just remember, I always have patients tell me, it's almost worse that I didn't fall. And in the case with hips, that would be absolutely factually true as far as the data goes. The lube and oil change. The hip joint is lubricated by a gel-like substance called the synovial fluid. And in healthy hips, it's surrounded by the tough cartilage. That fluid, as you start to move it, becomes more viscous. It becomes more lively. So we want lube inside of our hips so they don't get so stiff. I evaluate a lot of stiff hips. So a well-lubricated surface with its contact against other structures is an absolute necessary thing. And in just a second, I'm going to review some ways that you can lube up your hips. Ladies over 70, this is for you. I don't want you to get caught off guard. I'm going to give you a case example, and I'll explain why just briefly. I had a retired teacher come in about 2 years ago. She had seen an orthopedic surgeon, had an evaluation. Her hips were fine, quote unquote. She came in to see me a year later, almost to the date. She had some back pain, some hip pain, and some leg pain. Thought it was sciatic. I evaluated everything, and I said, I don't think I like the way your hips move. And she said, nope, Dr. Larry, my hips are fine. Don't worry about it. I got them checked out just a year ago. Now, to you and I, of course, and the average, every day, that sounds great. A year ago, how bad could hips get in a year? Ladies 70 plus, look out. So I did re-x-ray her hips. Both of them were bone on bone. I said your orthopedic surgeon was 100% accurate, and now I have to let you know that things have changed. And in that fast, in 12 months, she had lost the synovial fluid, the joints dried up, and she was completely bone on bone. Not even a hint of a hair of space in between there. Things happen in hips in ladies 70 plus. So I tend to like to re-x-ray hips if there's some issues with ladies at 70 plus, maybe every year or two, just to make sure all is okay after, of course, they're evaluated. Another little thing here to consider, our hips are like a Jeep Wrangler on the weekend sometimes. We off-road, we unload, we hit turns and embankments, and they have to have that shock-absorbing ability. And then during the week, maybe they're like a Buick, just kind of getting, we cruise. That's what our hips do for us. Very important joint, and you want to know how to prevent and take care of them. So how do you lube, oil change, and help the shocks out? So we went through some of the essential fatty acids that are great ways to get that into your diet. Some of them you may like, some of them you may not like. That's not the point. The point is to give you the tiered down best to least or most to less as far as essential fatty acids. Mackerel, 4,580 milligrams of nice essential fatty acid. That's a lube for your hip. So, and you can put this in the category of fish, of course. How much mackerel could you consume? 3.5 ounces will get you there. Remember, I'm going through these blow by blow. Okay, this is just a review. Salmon, who doesn't like some fresh salmon? Wish we could find it more in the stores. Not the farm-raised, fresh salmon. But anyway, nutrient-dense. It's got a whole bunch of other stuff for you. 2,150 milligrams of that wonderful lube for your hip. So just think about that next time you're eating some salmon. Cod liver oil, we get it to our kids when we need to when they were young. And cod liver oil is a great supplement that you can use as well in case you can't get fish in your diet. Herring, went through sardines, and then we'll shift away from fish. By the way, some smoked sardines, good for a lunch. Put that on a little cracker. Flaxseed, 2,350 milligrams. So throw some flax in a smoothie. Boom, you're lubing up your hips. Chia seeds, walnuts on a salad. All this stuff, these are nutrient-rich for those hip joints. Now, is it just the hip joints? Of course not. It goes to other joints, goes to the knee, goes to other place, but focus was the hips. Joint deterioration, arthritis, injury, all this stuff can start to stiffen up your hips, decrease the lube, decrease the shocking absorbability, and there are some things you can do to help offset some of that as far as exercises goes, and we went through some of those last week. So that was the entire lube and oil change and shocks for your hip that help you walk around many blocks. There was more. However, if you missed the entire show and want to be more in the know, then log on to my website, drlarryradio.com, hit the subscribe button, follow the links, and listen to that show. It's been uploaded now, which you can listen to at your leisure as a podcast. And here is the final point. If you want to prevent engine breakdown and worn out hips, just remember some of my tips. Now, beyond that, in addition to the hip shake, 80s fans will remember that one. Last week we learned a simple self-test for a trigger finger. I actually did it opposite. I got caught into another thought and I did it opposite, so I'll have to redo that one at some point. It was another Dr. Larry cool tool, and you can call my office for a freebie reminder just in case you're in need of a retip or a tip up. And so that was last week. Hi-ya. Now today we'll forget that monologue for a moment and keep remembering those mandatory communication skills all doctors must have, which are inquisitive listening and staying positive. Again, it often means the difference between sick and well. Also, it's another month of the year, so let's keep our knees in gear. So in our tip and trick segment today, we're going to learn a simple self-test for arthritis in the knee. It's an easy one. I use it all the time. Just used it yesterday. And of course, you, Tim, are calling it out right from the broadcast booth while we crank up the tunes and I hit the center stage for the demo. However, before all that, in order to have good health, you don't need a lot of wealth. So let's flex our forebrain and put some knowledge of the game, because today we're going to talk about, hit it, Pearl.
Dr. Larry brings you another segment of Did You Know?
Prevention. It's always our intention and should get our attention, which why I figured I'd mention a few ways to avoid injuries to your body's frame so you don't get hurt, pinched, or become lame. It's Prevention Day from injuries to your back, spine, ribs, and more when we get back from the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Dr. Larry Radio Show.
Dr. Larry will be back in a moment.
Your healthcare should be about what's best for you. Yet too often, healthcare professionals focus on keeping patients within their system, including who they refer you to. I'm Dr. Jason Klein, orthopedic surgeon and physician owner at OSMS. You should be seen by who you want, and you can be. At OSMS, our focus is on providing you with the highest quality of care in a safe environment. The best part is, you usually don't need a referral for orthopedic care. Learn more at askforosms.com.
This is Clovis from Iron River. You're listening to Dr. Larry's Radio.
Breaks over. Time to get cracking once again with Dr. Larry.
Welcome back. Love those quick breaks. Prevention. How about an apple a day keeps the doctor away? That's prevention. How about Smokey the Bear? Only you can prevent forest fires. We all remember that. Or this one, which I don't think you would know, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's from downstate. It was Isaiah Thomas, former Detroit Piston basketball player, a star, and he had a public service announcement. The slogan was from Edison Electric Company, which was, remember to look up. Look up for power lines to avoid electrocution and electrical hazards. And there was this 30-second commercial. And say, remember to look up. Prevention. And one more for the score. I would be remorse if I didn't say this one. Bob Barker, public service announcement, prevention. His was the iconic sign-off, The Price is Right, where he reminded viewers to help control the pet population, have your pets spayed or neutered. Prevention. So today, there's some basic ways to avoid injury by preventing them in the first place. These injuries that I see in my office, which recur, and are reoccurring, are the kind of like duh moments. And if you think about it, after the fact, it's a little too late. So I'm going to soak this into your brain today. Now, let's start off with a definition. I like to get us all on the same page. Prevention is the act of stopping something from happening or making it less likely to occur. Very straightforward. Easy. I looked at a few other definitions, but that's the first one that hit me. I like that one. I'm giving it to you. I'm going to move around a little bit between areas of injury to the body and activities. I'm going to lead off with the ribs. Do you like your ribs? Do you love your ribs, your rib cage? How do they feel today? Take a deep breath in. You can exhale. Can you feel your ribs? You shouldn't, and that's good. The ribs have some important functions. They protect and shield your heart, your lungs, and major vessels. In respiration, as you heard me just breathe into your ear, it moves from inspiration and expiration. There's some activities with the ribs there, and there's muscles and nerves that help out. Support. Ribs provide structural support for our thoracic wall, for our spine, for our pec muscles, and our abdominal muscles. Injuries. Busted, bruised, or torn ribs. Like Sting says, or the police, it hurts with every breath you take. And don't laugh, by the way. That hurts too. Do you know how to prevent busted ribs or torn cartilage? It's not what you expect. Let's go through a little bit of the human ribs. Now, surprisingly, they are very flexible, but don't take them for granted. And the curved shape helps from an engineering standpoint to withstand other pressures and external pressures. And the ribs can really take on a lot of pressure. When we can equate these to PSI, like you fill up your tire, pounds per square inch. If you're really geeky, we can talk about newtons, but I'm not going to talk about newtons today. Pounds of force would probably be the way we're going to describe it. So PSI or pounds of force. Keep that in mind, because I'll tell you, you don't want a rib injury. And it's variable, of course, with age and bone density. I'll tell you, even as a chiropractor, when our patients are laying on the table and I'm working on them, I first actually check the durability of a patient's ribs. I want to see if the ribs are going to be able to be flexible enough for me to do what I need to do, or do we have to modify certain things? Are the ribs really hard and rigid? Are they brittle feeling? Are they thick and durable? How do ribs feel in the rib cage? It's actually one of the things that I check out right away. I just put the heel of my hand on somebody's back. I shift off center, left and right, and I kind of bounce the ribs a little bit. And sometimes I'll tell patients, I'm just checking out your ribs. I want to make sure you're okay. Now, as a side note, in addition, just to kind of get in a gauge for how you feel and who you are, chiropractors that crack spines, which I do some of that, of course, but I do it in a very methodical way, in a very comfortable way. At least that's what patients have told me. But sometimes the way we put forces in the spine, if there's a weak rib, guess what? Chiropractors can bust ribs or strain ribs. So we've got to be really careful. We can't just go in there blasting away. We got to make sure your ribs are okay. And it's one of those things I've just gotten into the routine habit of seeing how ribs are because they're special. Now, as far as pressure goes, here is one way that patients have injured themselves severely in the rib cage. You got to go to and do your laundry. If you have a top-loading washing machine, and you've done it thousands of times over, maybe even millions of times in life, leaning over, get your wash out, and put it into the basket. Wet wash, you got to push it over to the dryer. Front loaders, don't worry about it. But you still have that washing machine. You got to lean over. I've had patients come in where they lean their rib cage on the washing machine to reach to get that sock. Bang, rib pops, breaks, fractures, or tears cartilage, and it's like somebody jabbed you with a knife right into your rib cage, and then takes your breath away, by the way, too, for a few minutes. So you almost feel like you can't catch your breath. At a moderate amount of leaning into a washing machine, it starts to elevate to about 25% of your body weight, or about 24 to 45 pounds of force right onto your ribs. If you brace, pull, and yank back to get that sock or those jeans that are kind of wrapped up between other clothes, the peak force on it is 80 to 100 pounds of force at one focused location right on the ribs. You want to talk about a gut punch almost to your ribs as you're just leaning to get your wash out of the or your clothes out of the washer. So the PSI to those is another way to say it, but it's one of those things where even if it doesn't fracture, if you tear some cartilage getting wash, it's awful. How about some slip and fall scenarios, like slipping and falling on a hard surface? Even a small fall, where you basically kind of land on something, maybe you land on your side with your arm, you can generate up to 1,000 pounds of force on your rib cage by just a simple slip and fall. Oh, landed on your left side or your right side. You know the ice season is coming up. And I will tell you that as it starts to hit, depending on how that ice settles in, hopefully it doesn't, but it does, there are times where I'm dealing with 50 to 100 slip and falls, sometimes in 1 month. And some of those are some pretty nasty rib injuries. So again, thinking about these things, preparing for them, washing is pretty easy. If you like to reef on something, like reach forward, yank and pull back, you know what I'm talking about. It can be anything. I mean, it can be like, starting a lawnmower. In this case, I guess be starting a snowblower soon. Any kind of pull back, something like that. You're trying to yank on something. That can generate internal forces on your rib cage up to 400 pounds of force. Okay, a lot of compressive forces. Another way to say it is up to 70 to 100 pounds of PSI. I mean, we inflate our tires to 35, 36, I guess, for average. Imagine 100 PSI right on your ribs. Oh, big injuries. Some of the things that can happen, like I said, are a strain. And, it's more mild. Usually lasts maybe 5 to 7 days. You can tear some cartilage in between. The approximate force for that's going to be around 200 pounds of force, and the approximate PSI is 60 to 100. So the things I just labeled for you, that's how cartilage can tear. And typically you have to have a little bit of a twist to it, because remember, you get a little more vulnerable if you add some twist to it or rotation, or if you twist and lean, that actually creates more vulnerability and more force. Rib fractures are some of the things that happen even in healthy adults, and then, of course, as we get aged, we get weaker ribs, and those become more vulnerable. So understand that ribs can have some issues and problems. One more thing that I have to add to ribs, and I really wanted to focus on the front end of ribs. You ever had a good bear hug from somebody? This isn't, by the way, preventing you from getting a bear hug, but I just wanted you to understand what a bear hug, because what sometimes happens is you get a big bear hug, from wherever it is, and then they lift up. And what happens sometimes is people try to pop your back. And again, it's pretty much benign, but I've had it where patients come in, I go, what happened? What happened to your ribs? They go, I had a bear hug from my friend, whoever, and they lifted me up quick and tried to kind of almost like jackhammer me a little bit and to get my spine to pop. So this isn't just the bear hug. It's the bear hug with some force. A rib can let loose on a nice, firm, little adult squeeze bear hug, like a firm hug, like, oh, I love you so much. That can generate up to 100 pounds of PSI and 250 pounds of force. Falls right into our category of injury. A strong bear hug, like I'm going to attempt to crack it, that can go all the way up to 600 pounds of force on your rib cage. If you add in muscle and a large person who's really got some girth to him, that can go up to 900 pounds of force on just a bear hug and a lift. So some of these things are very easily preventable. This isn't say don't hug somebody. It's just watch if you're going to lift them up and try to pop their back. I see that injury coming to my office. Again, things we don't think about, but stuff I see throughout the year, and it's prevention day. Why not? So I'm going to throw these things so they soak into your brain. So the lift and pop can be one of those things we got to really watch out for. And of course, rib fractures, I've seen those. I had one case of a situation where a mom wanted her teenage son to adjust her, and she was face down. She was on the floor on a hard surface, and her son was trying to help her out and sat and laid into her back, and whoa, did a rib let go on that one. So hard surface underneath, there was no give to the ribs, and bang, there went the ribs. So again, we're using the pounds of force as far as our pressure goes. And for you geeky people, that's about 4.5 newtons, in case you wanted to know. Watch out for the washing machines, the top loaders, carrying baskets up and down steps, reefing on stuff. All of those things can cause some major, major rib problems. And the force and the torque and the torsion and everything that goes along with that can be a really major issue. Okay. Now, something else we got to shift into, right into another category that we all think are lower backs. Low backs. There are some dangerous moves for the low back that, if you can prevent these, I would say this, what I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be a high percent of the lower back acute injuries that I see in my office. So I'm laying out for you in a menu board here. One of the number one reasons why people come in with an acute low back injury in my office is because of these types of movements. Here we go. The first one, I kind of coined it as the lean mean. This is leaning forward and reaching with your upper body. Here's some examples. Cleaning dishes at the sink. Yeah, leaning forward just a little bit. Brushing your teeth. Now, I'm not telling you not to clean your dishes, not to brush your teeth, okay? This is not the point, but there's ways to modify this. But these are some ways you got to start to think about how to prevent some of the ergonomics. Reaching forward to grab something somebody is handing you. Drop on the floor, flopping around like a fish, hurt your back. Clipping toenails. Another way that people get injured. So now, if we just went completely extreme on the opposite direction, don't clip your toenails, don't brush your teeth, and don't grab something from somebody they're handing to you, or don't shake anybody's hand. Nope. What you want to do is think about how you're doing it. And once your brain kind of settles that in, it's amazing how quickly you will automatically prevent and adapt this. So the next time you go to clean dishes at the sink, this is in your brain, you will automatically modify the movement and it'll happen and you'll be safer. So that's why I'm actually just planting the seeds for you right now. But let's go over some pounds of force. Brushing your teeth, 190 pounds of force on your lower spine. Cleaning dishes, up to 250 pounds of force. Reaching forward to grab something. Hey, I need a, will you hand me that, please? Give me that wrench. 250 pounds of force. Clipping your toenails. This is the big one. This one has brought some people in with some nasty back injuries. Up to almost 400 pounds of force on your lower spine by just trying to groom yourself as far as clipping your toenails. Now, some ways you can modify those, of course, start thinking about that stuff. You can prop your leg up, put your heel on something, carefully lean forward. You just don't want to lean forward and get your toenails. So these are some things that have caused some pretty serious injuries, and it's Prevention Day. The second way that you can hurt your back and your spine that you've got to be aware of and try to prevent is the tilt and twist. So this would be tilting forward. And for my specific people, I always say 5 to 10 degrees forward and 5 to 10 degrees left to right. For the rest, it's a little bit forward and a little twist left to right. That creates some heavy-duty vulnerability in your back. What is that? Getting out of your car, reaching for a doorknob. What does reaching for a doorknob generate as far as compression on your lower back? Almost 250 pounds of force. Getting out of the car, almost 350 pounds of force. This stuff happens. You go to get on your car. I had a lady come into my office. She literally got in her car from Iron River, went down to Iron Mountain, was totally fine, beautiful blue skies, happy day. She looks over to her husband as they park the car. She goes, I think my back just went out. And then she couldn't get out of the car. Turn around, had to come over to my office, and she could barely get out of the car. Her back was in complete spasms. There are things you can do to modify when you're sitting in your car. Okay? Last year, had a guy just freshly fixed up his back. He was going to go out west for the winter. I said, hey, be careful, get out of the car. Your back is just freshly fixed up. He drove 5 hours, sat for 3 hours with some dinner with some friends, 8 hours of sitting after he got his back fixed. He was sitting in a booth in a restaurant. 3 o'clock in the morning, he calls my office, and he has to turn around, come home, and stay an extra week so I can fix his back up again. These are the type of injuries every day that happen, and they're the common injuries that can be prevented. This is more or less like the awareness side of things, but as I'm planting the seed, like I said, I'm actually putting it into your synapses right now. I'm putting a neural link into you, I guess, as far as it goes through the radio waves. And finally, the sit. Now, deer season's coming up, ice fishing season's coming up. You plop down on your bum, your hiney, or your rump, and that's it. You sit down. Ice fishing, playing cards, sitting on a crummy chair at deer camp, driving to Walmart, like I mentioned. Those are the 3 most dangerous things you could do. The crummy chair at camp has got to almost go. You can modify a little bit. A couple years ago, a guy was playing cards with some guys, and next thing you know, his back locks up. Comes in, spasms. I go, what happened? He said, terrible chair at camp, awful. And he had to live in my office for about 10 days until I could fix him back up. He couldn't even go back to camp. That's how bad it was. Ice fishing on a low stool bucket. Does anybody do that? Do you sit on a bucket when you ice fish? You're going to add over 1,000 pounds of extra force on your back. Playing cards in a crummy chair, again, almost 1,000 pounds of force on that back. Driving to Wally World, not as bad, but if you got bad ergonomics or your chair is off, again, you're going to add about 1,000 pounds of force. So I created these little common denominators you can see here, be like, wait a second, so you mean it's possible for me to injure myself, severely by the way, either in my rib cage, either in my lower back, by some of these common things? Yeah. So don't sit on a low bucket when you're ice fishing. Just don't do it. Figure out something else. Get rid of that crummy chair that you got at camp. Figure out something else how to sit. Again, I don't have time to get into all the little fixes for this, but this is Prevention Day, and by prevention I mean I'm planting the seeds so you can start to think about these things. Okay. We have more body parts to go, and prevention is a yes and not a no. when we get back from the break. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Dr. Larry Radio Show.
We'll be right back with Dr. Larry.
Does your financial advisor take the time to really listen to you? Is your financial strategy personalized to you and your family? Will your financial advisor be there as your life and financial situations change? When you work with Ryan O'Grady, your Crystal Falls Edward Jones financial advisor, he focuses on what's important to you. You'll work together and use an established process to create a personalized financial strategy, backed by the advice, tools, and resources to help you reach your goals. And you can partner long-term to help your strategy stay on track. Contact Ryan today at 906-875-3833. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Your WIKB weather is brought to you by
Wooden Nickel Pub and Grill on Gibb City Road. Opens 11 a.m. Wednesday through Monday. Closed Tuesdays. Burgers, cheese curds, sandwiches, cod baskets, appetizers, and swag. Call the Nickel. 265-5861 for takeout.
Here's your Iron River and surrounding area forecast. Cloudy skies expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 45. Southerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Chance for showers. Lows dip down to about 34. About an inch of snow Saturday night. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on WIKB. Right now, it's 43 degrees.
This is Jackie from Vulcan, Michigan, and you're listening to Dr. Larry Radio.
An audiologist has extensive training preventing, diagnosing, and treating hearing and balance disorders. Research has shown people tend to underestimate the degree of their hearing loss. Rather than just selling hearing aids and fitting them, we try to look at the person and where he is as far as counseling and guidance on his hearing journey.
There's never been a better time to start hearing what you've been missing, and Lori LaFleur at Tri-County Communications will help you every step of the way on your journey to better hearing. Visit her office at 609 Central Avenue in Florence, Wisconsin. Give her a call at 715-528-4350 or find help online at TriCountyAudiology.com.
The heart of every Thanksgiving is the kitchen, and at Jensen Akins Hardware and Appliance in Conover, you'll find the perfect helper, KitchenAid. From creamy mashed potatoes to those flaky golden pies, KitchenAid appliances make holiday cooking effortless and joyful. So stop in to Jensen Akins in Conover, your hometown appliance experts, and bring home the power, style, and tradition of KitchenAid, because every Thanksgiving memory starts in the kitchen.
We're back with Dr. Larry.
Welcome back. Prevention. How about an apple a day keeps the doctor away? I did a whole show on that. Apple a day keeps the, how good are apples? There's a lot of different apples out there, by the way, too. But why is that? I got it on my show log. Take a listen to that. Smokey the Bear, only you can prevent forest fires. See how they planted that seed ever since we were little? Only you can prevent forest fires. And the big one downstate, like I said, look up. Look up. Watch out for electrical wires. And Bob Barker, my favorite one, just because I liked The Price is Right when I was growing up. For some reason, there's something about spinning that big wheel. And his long microphone. I've never seen a longer microphone in the history of game shows than Bob Barker's long stem microphone. That tiny little part there. But it worked. Help control the pet population. Get your pets spayed or neutered. So prevention. There are basic ways to avoid injury by preventing them in the first place. And even before preventing them is to hear how things happen. These injuries that I see in my office, which do happen over and over again, are kind of like the dull moment, D-U-H moments for us. We're like, oh, like for example, I talked about last segment, just leaning over to get clothes from a top loading washing machine. It's like putting a little fulcrum in your ribs there just seems so benign. It doesn't even seem like that big of a deal. Just kind of lean over, get the clothes out, that sock there. Just got to pull, and they're heavy and they're wet. Ribs have let go from that one. So again, when you go do that top loader, watch out. Prevention is the act of stopping something from happening or making it less likely to occur. That's what prevention is. Let's jump into another body area or body part. Necks. Shampooing your hair. Wash, rinse, repeat. Painting the ceiling. Turning your head quick left or right. These are legitimate injuries that come in, some of them severe. I remember I had a guy come in, neck was cranked off to the side. And this, by the way, more than once. I just think the one that I can remember offhand. I go, what happened? He goes, shampooing my hair. I go, are you serious? He goes, yeah. Yeah, I was kind of trying to get behind his ears a little bit too, maybe. Who knows? Maybe try to suds it up. I think really get to the details of his technique. But shampooing his hair. So you think, how is that? That's the most benign thing in the world that I can do. But if you're cranking your head left to right, you're holding it down, you're really trying to get that suds in your hair, male or female, look out. That's a way that you can hurt your neck. Painting a ceiling or doing anything above your head, extended position. And then, of course, turning your head quick left to right, like snapping your head to left. What'd you say? And then if you do that, that's another way people can injure themselves. Or even if you just kind of, maybe your wife's over to the left. Maybe you're in the lazy boy and she's saying something. You want to turn to her and look over to her. If you do, quick, look out. All right, shampooing your hair. That's 20 to 30 degrees of extension with a little side bending. That increases the pound and force on your neck to about 25 pounds of force. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's how you can strain a muscle. That simple. Painting a ceiling, your head's extended back about 25 to 40 degrees, or it's tilted up. You're looking up at the sky, trying to paint all day long. It becomes exponential. You can start to generate 45 pounds of force on your neck, and it starts to build quickly. You add a little bit of twist or rotation to it. All the engineers know what I'm talking about. For us average day people, you start adding rotation to something or twisting something with your head extended backward. Now we're starting to compound the force on the back of the head and neck. So painting a ceiling, working on a soffit, anything above your head, those are some ways you can generate some force. Now, there's some things you can do to prevent that. And, just modifying a little bit of your extension, tilting a little further back, getting an apparatus so you don't have to look up and crank your head as far. There's just things that you can do to help offset that. Your shoulders. Oh, I tell you what. Everything could be going great in your day. All is fine. And then you reach behind and grab something in your car. Bang, the shoulder goes. Picking up something heavier than you know you should. And a guy just in a month ago, he says, my back's good, but I need you to check out my shoulder. I was, what happened? He said, I was in the yard, and I went to reach for a boulder. I go, are we talking like boulder? He's like, boulder. And I went to pick it up, yank it up, and he goes, something let loose on my shoulder. I was like, oh, no. So now we're into an exam of the shoulder. Thankfully, fast forward, I was able to help him fix it with some home therapy and exercise, and he was good to go. He said, look, he gave me a little show and tell. So it wasn't, thankfully, a fully retracted tear, but that's what it was. This one I want you to pay attention to. Walking your dog on a leash. When your dog sees a squirrel, when your dog takes off for something, obedient or not, or runs across from right to left or left to right, and that leash zings across, and it hits its endpoint, and it yanks your arm forward, that's when a rotator cuff can let go. That's when a ligament can fray. Walking your dog. Let's go back to the first one, reaching behind you in the car. So I'd like to give little data points for you so you can kind of get the drift of this. When you twist to reach back in your arm, your shoulder joint and rotator cuff have to hold your arm out of its power zone. So there's a lot of leverage and your arm is close to your body. That's why even when you see boxers, when they punch, a lot of times even with a hook, they're close to the body and they're tight and they generate that force. When you extend that arm out and twist and reach backwards to grab something out of the back, so it could be a lunch, that pail that you got back there, could be your coat because it's a cold day, you just wear it in the car, it was warm, you want to get that coat. Just to hold it out there generates 60 pounds of force. If you rotate the shoulder, go to grab it, even for a split second, blink an eye, that doubles it up to 100 pounds of force on your rotator cuff. So it's the risky, awkward angles where you lose the support, you're out of your power zone for your shoulder, and bang, the rotator cuff lets go. Now, who wants to take their day, all of a sudden go, I've got to go in now, get this checked out. You get it checked out, and you know how it goes. Standard x-rays, ibuprofen, and then from there, maybe some therapy, maybe you're seeing me, and then from there, you're doing home exercises, and then from there, if it doesn't get better, we get an MRI, and then from there, you visit an orthopedic surgeon. From just reaching and twisting something behind real quick and grabbing something from your back seat can turn into a 6 to 12 month issue, depending on the case. Fact, that's happened. When really the reality is if you keep yourself within the power zone, you modify and you don't just arbitrarily reach for something behind you and yank it forward, you can prevent 6 to 12 months of misery sometimes as far as a shoulder problem goes. picking something up too heavy for your shoulder, when you grab and lift something, like the guy said he lifted up a boulder, we are into the stratosphere as far as poundage goes. So something as light as 5 pounds can generate 80 pounds of force. Well, I just picked up, so I'm repeating back what I'm told. Dr. Larry, I just picked up a 5-pound object. It couldn't be any more than 5 pounds. Yes, but the inside loading on your shoulder is 80 pounds. So it's not what the weight is that you're picking up. It's what happens inside of the shoulder joint when you're picking it up and how you generate that lift. 10 pounds, if you just pick up a 10-pound object, that's 120 pounds of force on the shoulder. 20-pound object, 30-pound, so you get my drift. You go up to 30 pounds, you're at 10 times the amount of force generated in your shoulder. So it's not that you're picking up a 30-pound object. Consider it in your brain, and I'm going to merge a couple things together here. Consider like you're trying to pick up a 300-pound object with your shoulder. It's not quite accurate, but it gets us there, and it helps make the point. Now, the shoulders aren't built for leverage. They're not built for load capacity like we are talking about. That's for other areas of your body. That's for your legs. That's for the front part of your arms, your biceps. That's the elbows. They're into lever and loading. So the shoulders are, I always say, hung together by rubber bands, and that's about it. Your elbow and your arm, basically it's like a door hinge, but it doesn't move in all directions like a shoulder. So you get a lot more leverage, let's say, just even from the elbow and the arm area as well, too. So think about those things. Rather than, if I got something that I reach that's a 5-pound object, if I reach, rotate my arm, go to lift it up, and just kind of lift it up in a rotated position versus if I just reach for it and kind of levered it with my arm, big difference in leverage goes. So prevention in a lot of this, too, is if I'm going to draw a common denominator, is how you leverage your day with your movements. That's some of the fundamental keys. Walking the dog on the leash. So you want to take Scrappy for a walk. You want to take Spots. Fill in your dog's name. Okay? The steady small amount of tension and the sudden jerk over time. So let's say there's a little bit of a situation and he stops or she stops and turns one way real quick. 20 pounds of force, even though it might have been 1 to 2 pounds of force, but it's 20 pounds of force in your shoulder. All of a sudden, if your dog tugs real hard and snaps in a moment and takes off, you got 150 pounds of force in a blink of an eye on your shoulder. That's going to be real tough for your shoulder not to fail. And that's one of those accidents and injuries that comes in. Again, so dog leash, you can take that and move it into some other category if you want. But if you're just hanging with me as far as what I'm talking about, these simple, practical, everyday injuries that happen to people that can add weeks to months of misery and time, and also can be simply preventable as well, too. Hey, I'm going to eat my own medicine. I work on patients on the left side of my table all day long. I was not leaning over the right way for the first part of my career. Started to develop some back problems, started to develop some sciatic down my leg. I had to redesign my leverage so I can put my leg into my table and then lean forward to the people. Guess what? Sciatica goes away, back problem gets less. So something as simple as just redirecting some of the leverage that you use actually makes things a lot better and easier and can fix a lot of problems. People ask me, what could I have done to prevent this, Dr. Larry? Well, I'm giving you some of the things that happen, and I'm giving you a fundamental tool. Your leverage. Watch your leverage. So shoulders are a problem and can be really vulnerable. Now I'm going to finish it up with one last one because it's timely. Turkey in the oven. Turkey in the oven. I just have a 15-pound turkey, Dr. Larry. Now you've been educated. Is that really a 15-pound turkey? Based on the objects that I gave you as far as the force on your back and your shoulders? No way. That 15-pound turkey can be up to 10 times the loading capacity on your lower spine or your shoulders. That's what that turkey does. Every single year, like tradition, I will get turkey oven injuries in. Somebody's going to throw their back out getting that turkey in or out of the oven. And most of the time they'll say, but it was just a 10-pound bird. But I put other things in the oven. I get it. I know. Here's some of these data points as far as just the overall loading goes. And we'll take an average pound turkey. Okay, let's say 15 pounds. With the average rack height. Okay, so average rack height. Let's see the median rack height. Here are some of the loading real quick. 120 pounds to 180 pounds of force. And that would be just on your back. And it starts to build from there. When you take the turkey out, that can go up to 350 pounds of loading capacity on your lower spine. So when you are reaching, I'm not telling you to fall into your oven just to protect your back, okay? But when you're reaching to get that turkey out of the oven in a few weeks, keep in mind some of the prevention tools that you can use to get that turkey out. There's some body mechanics, some leverage you can use. You can keep your arms and elbows tight, pull the turkey back towards you, and then lift it out, not just reach in and grab that turkey. As good as it smells. And I didn't do stuffing, and I didn't do green bean casserole, so I don't know what the loading capacity is in those, but let's just apply the same concepts because now you know. Okay, upcoming announcements and our tip and trick of the week after the break. This is the Dr. Larry Radio Show.
Dr. Larry will be back in a moment.
I would never recommend buying a home without having the water tested first. It's cool, it's clear, it looks clean. Oh, it tastes good. Well, what's really in it? And we just recommend that you check it out. I'm Jennifer Toivonen. I'm a co-lab director at Whitewater Associates of AMISA. Coliform bacteria, lead, arsenic, nitrates. You want to be sure that water is safe. I would recommend giving us a call. That way we can tailor the kit that we send to you for what you need. 906-822-7889. Give us a call.
This is Julia from Iron River, and you're listening to Dr. Larry Radio.
Break's over. Time to get cracking once again with Dr. Larry.
Okay, a couple of things before we wrap up the show and get to the weekly tip and trick. Have you seen the signs? They are popping up all over the county in people's yards. It involves you, but you may not know exactly why or how yet. The nurses at Aspirus Iron River are fed up. That's the sign and the slogan. It's not about money, it's about people. From minurses.org, in the latest cuts, Aspirus has now, it did say will end, but now has ended coverage for emergency surgeries overnight effective October 26th. So that's now in effect. This comes on top of Aspirus eliminating almost all of the CNA positions at the Iron River Hospital, adding responsibilities to the charge nurse and helping on the emergency medical surge units as well as cuts at other UP Aspirus hospitals. So the nurses are fed up. I had a pre-interview meeting yesterday because this is directly involves local, but does involve the UP and other areas as well too. And quite simply, I'm going to bring them on and I'm going to help. We're going to first identify what hospital is, the function of a hospital. You heard me say charge nurse. What is a charge nurse? If you're not a charge nurse or not in healthcare, do you know what a charge nurse does? Without a CNA in place, what effect does that have on the charge nurse? You're going to find out. How about medical surgical units? What is the med surge unit? How does that translate to care and what you're getting? And what do the cuts mean as far as that goes, as far as your care? We're going to define that. And then we're going to get into the cuts being the tip of the iceberg, because there's three big blows that have happened and they are straining the staff. The hospital is supposed to properly staff for all of the what-if scenarios. Now, I just went through a bunch of what-if scenarios in my show today. What if? What if you lean over your washing machine and get your clothes and your ribs go, okay? So there's a whole bunch of what-if scenarios that happen. That's what a hospital's job is supposed to be there. From sniffles to tummy aches to appendicitis to gunshot wounds to auto accidents, all of it. There are what-ifs that happen every day. You can't plan for that. There might be maybe 15 what-ifs in one day. There could be 30 what-ifs. And that can range from a sniffle to a gunshot wound to any kind of other trauma, any kind of other accident, injury, illness, you name it. So they have to be staffed. You can't do it like Walmart. You can't, well, it's just a low volume part and, because we know that pretty much typically, people shop on, let's say, Friday afternoon. So we'll staff it up a little bit more there. What if scenarios happen all over the place? And so hospital needs to be properly staffed. Nurses are having a difficult time with these cuts, and they want their CNAs back. They need their CNAs back. And so it's not one of these things, they work together. So three big blows happen, and we're going to find out why the nurses are fed up with Aspirus, and you'll get it directly from them. Stay tuned for that. Anticipated air date is going to be November 20th. earmark that in your calendars, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, November 20th. That's this month. We're going to hear from the nurses and why they're fed up. Also, this is just an announcement. Do you know who sees and wants your medical records? You pay a premium, so what types of companies does your insurance company contract with and allow your information to be shared without your consent? So what happens is I guess in theory, is you should feel as though you give consent for your medical records to be transitioned to, let's say, another area, or you consent it for be in a certain area, and you go, well, I want my records to go from here to there, and you consent to have it moved across, okay? Or I need to get some imaging over from one place to the next. You consent to it. And then you would think that you know that wherever you consent it goes, and whoever your providers interact with, that's where it's at. The deal is that the top portion, the top brass, I'll say, of your insurance company actually contracts with this company called Datavant, and they consent for you. And what they do is they now, and we as providers are liable if we don't do this, and also we have to do it per our contract to give the data, your data, over to this company, and they go do what they want with it from there. Now, of course, there's some nice slogans on what they do with it, but the bottom line is your information leaves without your consent because your insurance company, remember, all the legal jargon that you have to sign, the yes, just so you can get your insurance, contained within that legal jargon is they can do whatever they want with your information, and they can go however they want, where they want. As long as they have the legal arrangement made, they can make it move. That's what they do. Just wanted to let you know that and think about how that makes you feel. Hips. Again, we're going to have Dr. Walker Flannery from OSMS. He's coming back on the show. This is going to be a live call-in. First one for the guys down at OSMS. So I said, you ready for it? Got your game face on? I want to do some push-ups? We're going to get you on the air live. He's going to talk about a new software. So I stopped there when I was out of town, say hi to some of the surgeons and whoever was available at OSMS in Green Bay. And he was available. He's actually dictating one of the shoulder surgery he did. And he goes, hey, take a look at this. I'm going to show you this new software that I've been using for about a year now. And the software is part of the division of Johnson & Johnson. And in fact, I contacted one of the representatives from Johnson & Johnson this morning, the division of it for their orthopedics. And what it does is it uses infrared sensors to give surgeons a precise 3D view of the joint and instruments, helping to increase the accuracy, improve the implant positioning, and reduce operating time and minimize radiation exposure. So it gives them real-time data and gives them intraoperative or within the operation data to help them make data-driven decisions to make sure that hip fits just perfect. So you heard me say earlier, hips are some of the easiest, best things that I like to refer people out for when they need it, of course, because they've got them done so well. Well, this software upgrades that even further, because what happens sometimes is you'll have these leg length offsets or deficiencies, and that's actually one of the things that I do check in my office when I know a patient's had a hip replacement. I stand them up and I go, okay, let's make sure everything is shimmed correctly. And sometimes there's a leg length discrepancy or an offset. What this software, per what Dr. Flannery is saying, doing is helps him out even better with that in the operation. So therefore, and it does have some AI to it. So he's like, it's got some AI technology to it as well. So you're going to hear that a lot now. But he's been using it for a year. He loves it. And I said, why don't you come on the show? Let's talk about it. So he's going to get back with me about that. Well, that'll be in an upcoming show at some point in time. So reduces complications, improves efficiency, improves outcomes, gives a lot of flexibility to their workflow, and it's the stuff they need as far as during the surgery. Don't forget to click on WIKB.com at the Ask Dr. Larry link. You can email your healthcare question to me. So, by the way, you're giving consent just to put your information on WIKB. So, you can ask a question. People have done it. It's fine. It's free. You can do that. Send me a question. Fill out the tabs. You just got to scroll down a little bit. You'll see the Ask Dr. Larry link. And I got to remember to infuse this throughout the show as well, too, for those little reminders. Because if you do it during the show, sometimes I can rapidly get back to you in between commercials if you'd like and answer your questions, especially if there's something on your brain that I say. Today was kind of just a little bit of a lighthearted, fun show, little things to prevent and some loads and force. I like to mix it up for you. But don't forget to check out WIKB.com. And another website, my website, drlarryradio.com. As you heard the start of the show, there's 3 tabs, one for listeners, one for patients, and one for syndication. So look in those tabs. If you're a listener, I usually have my most recent show loaded up there. You can listen to that. I'll get this show up hopefully by the weekend, and you can hear some more about the prevention. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can also get a hold of my office from the For the Patients tab. Those are some things you can do as far as on my website. Pretty basic, pretty simple, but you can also look at some of my show topics as well, too. And there's the subscription tab if you want to go to the archives. Okay, let's snap into the Slim Tim. We're going to break him in today. It's the icebreaker, as we say, is our first speech. We got Tim on the 1 and 2. You head up to the broadcast booth. I'm heading out center stage for the demo because today we're going to learn a simple self-test for osteoarthritis of the knee. Tim, let's do it, man. You call out the commentary. Tell them what I'm doing, and I'll explain it.
Okay, Dr. Larry's grabbing his right knee. It reminds me of my old football injury.
Yeah. Oh, those will come back to haunt you, right?
Yeah.
You know what I should have done, Tim? I should have grabbed my left knee because that's my old football injury. Oh.
Yeah, football knees, it goes with the turf.
It goes with the turf.
Yeah.
What position did you play?
I was guard and middle linebacker.
I should have guessed, man. I would have. Yes, guard, middle linebacker. Which one did you like more?
Middle linebacker, like hitting people, putting their ribs out.
So Tim, the former middle linebacker, just told you, I love doing this test. Thanks, Tim. I love doing the test because it's really simple. Somebody came in yesterday, and Dr. Larry, I'm having some problems with my knees, and I go, okay, lay on the table. I grab both the knees. I go, whoop, your right one is bigger than your left one. We're done. We know the right one could be a problem. We examine a little bit more. It's stiffer. Probably has some osteoarthritis of the knee. He's going to get that checked out by one of the orthopedic guys I'm going to send him over to. I had a lady come in. Actually worked at a hospital. This is a few years back. Again, just kind of falls into my brain how they fall. And she was told she did not need a knee replacement. She lays on my table. I feel her left knee. I go, your knee is like twice the size of the other one. What do you mean you don't need a knee replacement? Let's check this out further. Lo and behold, she does need a knee replacement. She gets the knee done. Literally from just grabbing the knee and feeling it. So compare them left to right. See how one knee feels compared to the other. And it's a really good way to test if you have some osteoarthritis. You'll feel it. It's bulky. It's harder, actually, too. It's firmer. That's what OA, or osteoarthritis of the knee, feels like. And it's a really, really basic test. There's other tests if you want to evaluate the ligaments. I've gone over those before. But grab it, hold it, feel it. If you got an old football injury like Tim and I do, my left knee. By the way, I had to shift into, I know a patient's making fun of me after I told him this. I had to shift into wearing a knee brace when I walk now this year. I made the switch. It must be the gray hair. And that is your tip and trick of the week. So, coming up, we got some good shows. Can't wait to get the nurses on. Can't wait to get Dr. Flannery on. Talk about his new software. In case you went on too, I'm buying me some time right now so the board flips. And folks, remember by this, you can listen to me live right here every week to learn how to achieve a better back and better health. There we go. Tool time, Tim, he's getting it. Mr. Electrical Engineer Retired Guy, he'll solve problems. He's going to have this board in a whip. He'll probably fix the board. Remember, you can listen to me live right here every week to learn how to achieve a better back and better health. Or if you're having a pain or problem, my number at the office is 906-875-3215. Have a good day. Gentlemen on the board, see you next week.